only thing that Cornel West, Dr. West, who I love, admire, respect, whose politics I almost wholly and completely share, I think effectively the only thing that his campaign will accomplish is, number one, helping to reelect Donald Trump, and number two, hurting the left. Because ultimately, there's just a poll that came out that showed Biden and Trump basically tied in a head-to-head. You throw Cornel West in and Trump is winning by like 5 points. And the margin is just exactly the amount that Dr. West takes away from Joe Biden. Now, listen, it's fully on Joe Biden that he needs to do more to appeal to potential Cornel West voters. But let's live in the land of reality of how this is going to work out. They're not going to do that. Dr. West will take some percentage, relatively small percentage, away from the Democratic total, and it makes it easier for Donald Trump to get elected. So if your priority is reelecting a Democrat, and if you believe, as I do, that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not equivalent, that Joe Biden has been better in particular on economics, but also with things like the withdrawal from Afghanistan, then yeah, I think a third party effort makes it more likely that Donald Trump gets reelected. And the reason why I say I think it will ultimately also hurt the left wing and left principles, if that's what you care about, is we have the model of 2016. Look, the theory in 2016 with Jill Stein was if we withhold our votes from the Democrats, and that's going to force them to the table, we're going to have a voice in the room, they're going to have to come to our side. No, that's not what they did. Instead, they demonized anyone who would have even considered Jill Stein. They used it to demonize the left. They used it to undercut any sort of leftward push. And so while I would love to imagine that that theory of the case would work out, we've seen the reality, and that is not what happens. Now, the place where I profoundly disagree with Bernie Sanders is on his orientation towards the Democratic primary. And there's another section of this where he gets asked
Jesus Christ.
primary, and he says, no, I think we need to unify behind Joe Biden because that will be what helps to defeat Donald Trump. Well, that's exactly the argument that was used against Bernie Sanders himself.
Yes.
Both in 2016 and again in 2020.
So there's a lot to discuss here. This is a big learning opportunity, and this is why the PMC left is very upset with RBN, because I want you guys to analyze what does grifter mean? What does the word grifter mean? It means someone who says something that they truly don't believe for money. That is what the original definition of a grifter is. Not people who advocate for third parties, not people who criticize people's favorite politicians, because that's how most people use it now. Oh, you criticize my favorite politician, Nick, you're a grifter. No,
grifters use grifters now.
A grifter is someone who says something that they truly do not believe in order for some sort of gain, and most of the time it's monetary, for money, for status, for privilege, right? So the first clip you show is extremely damning, just like her boyfriend child, Kyle Kulinski, where Turncoat Don buried him by showing his previous positions versus his current position, and you see Krystal speaking out against this nonsense, this anti-third party nonsense. She used to speak out in support of third parties. So I'm gonna ask you guys this question. I'll pass it back to you, CJ, because you have a realistic progression, fam. I have a realistic progression. You know what I mean? There are people who are victims of propaganda. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world. So when people are propagandized and then they start seeing through it, I used to be someone who believed in Russiagate. I was someone who voted for Barack Obama when I was younger. So people start out propagandized. So then people see through the propaganda and then they become radicalized because a lot of it out of anger and contempt. Like, you motherfucker tricked me. and we both had the same, like, you motherfucker tricked me. How dare you? So we change and we become the RBN that you see today. The progression that you see from the Bernie Sanders left is not realistic. How do you go from seeing through the propaganda and then you go back? Like, propaganda, and now y'all saying like, nigga, that propaganda shit. Actually, you know who goes backwards? It's once you see through it, you can't unsee it. It's not you unsee. You like, nigga, I know I used to have critiques of this lesser two evils garbage, but I'm gonna completely unlearn that. That's unrealistic. This is a textbook grifter that we are seeing right here. The Bernie Sanders industrial complex, and we name them that for a reason. They became a group of grifters. We watched the Bernie Sanders coalition shift to the right. Now, CJ, I'll pass it to you because that's my very long opening monologue on this.
No, and I'm glad, and I'm so happy that you were able to join. My kids are in school, so this is kind of my new time that I'm going to be going around this time, maybe an hour later.
Yeah, that worked.
But to your point, that first clip, oh, sweet summer child, like you say, like, how do you go backwards, Nick? How are you a teenager and then you go back to being a sweet summer child? That's essentially, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you a teenager and then you go back? You go back. It doesn't make any sense because you see the first video, how she advocates for third parties. This is why, like, have they shifted? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and to say money has moved them instead of saying they've been grifting this whole time. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and say recent money has motivated the shift. But because how can you be saying what she's saying in one video and then shift what she's saying now about Joe Biden? I mean, there's several videos I found of her talking about Joe Biden.
Yeah, I love that you found those videos, man. Those intro videos are perfect. I
love being able to go back. Ain't it something being able to go back and be like, wait a minute, you said this a year ago. So this is proving that your advice, you're not good at it, your advice. So whatever you're saying now, why are we going to believe you now?
Do that. It's good that you do that, CJ, because the people who are critics of RBN, Harlan's Media, Do This, and Jimmy Dore, they would say stupid shit like we changed. Like they pretend that we changed. We caught you guys in 4K saying completely different shit a few years ago. We caught Jordan Sheridan saying completely different shit. Kyle Kalinske saying completely different shit. Krystal Ball saying completely different shit. And then they turn around and gaslight us. This is why I believe they are charlatans. I believe they are gaslighting enemies of the working class because they know what they're doing. When you look at the first clip, Krystal Ball calls out the fraudulent intellectual argument against fighting against Joe Biden.
Right.
And then you want us to, you're trying to convince me that she changed from that she went from understanding and seeing past DNC propaganda to propagating it. And we see that breaking points want to be the new mainstream. And in order to have this mainstream media construct in media, you need to have Saiger, who's on the right. You need to have Krystal Ball, who's a Democrat supporting shit lib. And she's more than happy to play that role. You cannot, and the fact that you know that she can debunk the DNC's arguments at the first clip show that she does not believe in what she is saying now, because she knows the counter argument. Think about it, CJ. Back when you pushed Russiagate, back when you believed in Russiagate, you didn't know the counter argument to that. It was once you was exposed to that, then you see how it's bullshit. So she is operating a grift because she is talking about stuff that she literally do not believe, as evidenced by the clips that you have shown. Anyway, I'll pass it back to you, CJ.
And it's pretty damning. But another question before because we're gonna play the regular full clip that they put out on this. But to the broader point, we've been sporadically making videos about how Ryan Grimm has moved to the right. Maybe he was always right, but that's sort of the critique. How Majority Report and TYT. I mean, we were just talking about this. Anna Kasparian moving to the right. Like even their own offspring, like Humanist Report and the Serfs are reporting how TYT has moved to the right, but Humanist Report has moved to the right. Rational National has moved to the right. Circular Talk, like literally, who was it? Turncoat Don put together that video was showing that Kyle Kalinske fighting against himself. And I'm sure somebody could put together a video of Krystal Ball fighting against herself. What is it? Is it the money? Is it what you're saying? And because I never thought about it in the way you said it, about how in order for the breaking points to have a legitimate path in their eyes of becoming the mainstream of the internet, they have to accept certain narratives that the blue and red establishment put out. And the number one narrative that they put out is the only people who matter is the red and blue team. That's the only thing that matters, because the audacity of her to say what she said about Cornel West and then turn around and be like, but I'm really upset about the primaries. Like that shit really matters. Like she didn't have several videos talking about how the primaries is rigged.
And
like
if you have extra time like me and Jimmy Dore, read the comments on Breaking Point's videos. It's the only reason. It's the only reason to watch Breaking Points at this point, because if you watch this video, the original video, Krystal is getting ate up. She's getting ate alive, fam, by her own audiences. And I've been told this is a regular thing now. And RBN, as CJ laid out, we was first. We was one of the original people calling out Breaking Points, calling out all these grifters. People, and I still remember, CJ, I know you remember them as well. There'd be obviously crossover where it'd be like Breaking Points fans who watch RBN, they're like, man, why you guys so mean to Krystal? That's like a year ago. Like, man, come on, guys, you guys are really mean to Krystal. And now those same people like, holy shit, it's unbelievable what she became. Now they're like, RBN was right, dude. Like, and we've seen through her and Marianne Williamson, and people see Marianne Williamson's Ukraine comments, and people like, actually, CJ, I'll pass to you. I actually got someone at the door real quick. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Yeah, so to Nick's point, because I didn't notice this is crazy. This is their own comments section on the video that we're going to be analyzing, but this is their own comments. Let's zoom in a little bit. Here's one. I'm tired of always having an excuse as to why you can't vote third party. Love that comment. Now, let's go to the next one. Why would you ever support a candidate that you absolutely do not want over someone who shares your policies and views of truth and justice? ? Break free of the duopoly or we'll lose our democracy.
Bro, people see through her, like, and only millionaire white women, PMC fucks like Krystal Ball are repeating this garbage that somehow politics is not about representing your material interest. That is same Sam Cedar majority report argument. We say votes is not about your feelings. Votes is your duty to protect. No, everything you do in every way you move in politics is about advancing the material needs of you, your family, and your neighbors. If you're not doing that, you are wasting your vote. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your resources, which is why it's absurd that Krystal Ball advocates the exact opposite. I'll read the next one since I'll read the next one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, do you?
Nothing will fundamentally change if we follow Krystal's advice. She getting dismantled by her audience. Dismantled, and I skimmed a few of them, but this is good. I can see more updated. I seen this earlier. So you see, like, these are not like handpicked comments, fam. These are like,
we're just scrolling down.
Comments. They got hundreds of likes. Like, these got over 100 likes. Nothing will fundamentally change if we follow Krystal's advice. She's just as much culpable as Bernie as maintaining the status quo if she votes for Biden with its current policies. And remember, fam, remember what I told you guys. You want to know who the number one threat to Dr. Cornel West and third-party movements are? Do you think it's Joe Biden's sleepy ass?
No, it's the white moderate.
Do you think it's Donald Trump's stupid ass? Go ahead, CJ. I know you want to chime in, but
no. I just wanted to give the answer, and then you will go ahead and finish your explanation. It's the white moderate, Nick, to answer your question. That's what the number one obstacle to the third party. But who is the white moderate? Can you define it for us, Nick?
So people like Krystal Ball will do like a video every once in a while criticizing Joe Biden, criticizing Democrats. And I saw she had a labor video, and she's like, we gotta rise up and overcome corruption. And then she tells you not to vote for a third party. So think about it. She had people that's on the edge. They're teetering. This is why I say they are the number one threat to third parties, because there are people like, man, I'm tired of the Democrats. Yeah, Krystal Ball, that's a great takedown of Joe Biden. Yeah, maybe I should look at other options. And then right when people are ready to pull the trigger, guess who comes? Krystal Ball, Ryan Grimm, Kyle Kulinski. Like, no. I know I said the establishment is bad, fam. No, but we still got to support Joe Biden. And then people who are not as radical as we are, not as well-read as we are, maybe people who establish trust with Krystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski because they watch their product. They are about to leave the Democratic Party, and then they hear Krystal Ball say, "Oh no, we can't support Dr. Cornel West." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Oh, damn it! I thought we had something there for a second." You guys see how they are there to quell revolutionary spirit? Once again, we see through it, but not everyone does. There are people that be so close, and then people like Krystal Ball pulls them back. Do you think a speech by Joe Biden pulls these people back? No, they're about done. It's the people they trust. The people they trust
and they take
pull them back. Go ahead.
And Krystal Ball is taking the cues from who, Nick? Who would he just report on yesterday? Bernie Sanders. They're everybody in this Bernie. That's their name, the Bernie, and it's dubbed by you. The Bernie Sanders industrial complex are taking their cues directly from Bernie Sanders and AOC. If you think they would be having this exact position if Bernie Sanders and AOC came out in support of Cornel West, do you really believe they would be taking these positions if that was the case? I don't believe that, because they take their cues. In order for their money flow, their grift to continue, they have to follow people who are actually elected. The Bernie Sanders, the AOCs, they have to stay in line with them. This is why they move to the right on war. They're anti-war except for every current war. Figure out it's a trickle down effect. Whatever. That's
why they support the Ukraine war, because Bernie does.
Exactly.
To your point, I read this one. Even if Cornel West drops out, I am still not voting for Biden, which is the same shit-lib argument that Krystal repeats that you can hear on MSNBC. Good news, though. We had Dr. Cornel West on yesterday, and we got him. He said on our show, and I think Cornel West is a man of his word. He's in it to the end. And that's the difference between supporting a serious movement-building potential candidate like Dr. Cornel West in the third party versus unserious candidates like RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, who's going to be done by Super Tuesday. Like, you guys are done fighting around March. Like, if you support Marianne, if you support Krystal Ball's strategy where she's like, I'm all in on fighting establishment during the designated time, our rulers, the oligarchs gave us a designated time to fight, and I'm all down to do it during the designated time, during when they're comfortable, when they're not allowing us to debate. I'm here to sit outside and look sad like a puppy dog. But when we actually can fight during the general election and pose a threat to the power, hell no. Because she, remember what she said in the intro, going back to that. She said it will hurt the left, CJ. What does that mean? She said people who support Jill Stein and Dr. Cornel West are being demonized. Demonized by who? Fam?
Clowns?
So who is Krystal Ball trying to win over? Who is Krystal Ball trying to bring in my community? I am an open third party. Fuck the Democratic Party. Fuck the Republican Party. Post-duopoly leftist. You know how many people in my family disown me? Not one. You know how many people disown me in my community? Not one. I just did multiple mutual aid drives, giving out school supply, clothes, and equipment to poor families and people in my community. How many of these people like, nigga, you didn't support Joe Biden next year? Fuck you. So Krystal Ball is scared of the heat that comes from the establishment, fam. What did we say on the show? I can't wait till these motherfuckers try to vote shame us. I can't wait till we get that heat, fam. We want the funk. We want the fight. She does not want the fight. Marianne Williamson does not want the fight. They are scared of the funk, fam. Sorry,
let me read these last two, and then we'll get into the video. It's amazing, but nobody's buying it, Nick. Like, look, like you said, I didn't cherry pick these. I literally went from the top to the bottom. We're on comments 6 and 7 or something like that. Each one has been against what she's saying in the video. So why is she saying it? Why is she saying something that her audience is completely against? What is happening? Who is she saying it for? Who is she pandering to? I'm just so tired of being told to vote against people. I think this country would be much better. I think this country would be much more healthy if we instead voted for what we believe in. And this is the final comment, and then we'll get to the video. I will not vote for Biden. I will vote for Cornel West. People are fed up.
4 to 6%, man.
Yes.
Already, you guys see why.
Not even campaigning.
Not even campaigning yet. Professor Zinkis told me there was another poll. I saw one where he was at 4%, and he told me there's another one where he's at 6%. And you guys see why. People are done with this nonsense. And I'm glad to see Breaking Point's audience sees through it. But I'll pass it back to you, CJ.
Yeah, so we'll get started with this video. You know the routine. Let me know. I can't see, so let me know when you want me to stop it. Here we go.
Running as a third-party candidate for president. Now, Bernie has already jumped in to endorse Joe Biden. This in spite of the fact that, you know, he just gave a big speech in New Hampshire calling out the corporate Democrats and, you know, urging them to do more. But even in that same speech saying, but we got to back Biden, we got to unify behind Biden, et cetera. He got asked on CNN specifically about Dr. West's challenge of the current president, Joe Biden. Let's take a listen to how he responded.
Senator Sanders, Cornel West, who is a close ally of yours, he is running a third-party campaign for president. He recently criticized you for endorsing President Biden's reelection. Listen to what he said.
I love the brother, and you know, even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump. People look at Biden; they don't really want to tell the full truth. He's created the best economy that we can get.
That hurts Bernie, fam. That one hurts Bernie left.
That does.
Who he's talking about? He's talking about Bernie Sanders and Krystal Ball right now. You guys will see later because Krystal Ball even tried to pretend that Biden is the good on the economy, something that 70% of Americans disagree with. So out of touch, but anyway, I'll let it continue more.
She's been pushing that too.
You're gonna tell that?
Yeah, wait till you see the whole video.
I didn't even know that because I haven't seen the whole video. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen it. That's why once again I had to join you because we have to show people who these people are, and I want people to acknowledge that they are our class enemies. They're not the best we got. They are here to serve a very particular role. Anyway, I'll let it continue.
Lie to the people just for Biden to win?
What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction is that certainly is not the best economy that we can create. That was what my speech was about yesterday. We've got to join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all. We've got to cut the cost of prescription drugs in half. We've got to raise the minimum wage to at least $17 an hour. We've got to build the affordable housing we desperately need. But where I disagree.
But we're not going to do anything to fight for it. All those things that Bernie listed is dead, especially Medicare for All. Dead. But anyway, I'll let it continue. I'll be short.
With my good friend, Cornel West, is I think in these really very difficult times where there is a real question whether democracy is going to remain in the United States of America. You know, Donald Trump.
This is exactly why, fam, we do propaganda report. We want you guys to know what they say on Morning Joe so we can catch these motherfuckers. That's exactly what they say. Hey, Bernie, that's exactly what they say on Morning Joe, fam. You sound no different than an MSNBC shit lib. This is the most important election of our lifetime, once again, CJ, because democracy on the line. Let's set aside the fact that the Democratic Party stole the election from me twice. That we operate and we live under a government that have unelected permanent state bureaucrats like Victoria Nuland who we cannot get rid of. There are people like Anthony Blinken in our government who we cannot get rid of, no matter who we vote for, fam. But Bernie, this is the democracy that he's defending. This is democratic socialism, fam. They call themselves democratic socialism because they inherently don't believe that socialism is democratic. They defend the capitalist mode of democracy, which anyone who read any basic theory know is not democracy. How do you have a democracy where you can predict who wins an election at a 95% clip based on who has the most capital? That is what it's called when capital controls the means of production and their government, hence capitalism. All the criticisms that you guys have over COVID, lockdowns, war, and the military-industrial complex is a critique of capitalism. You guys are just too afraid to call it that. You guys create shit. You got to create terms like no, he's a globalist. He's a globalist. Lockdowns, mandates is the result of capitalism. Repeat after me. Anyway, let's continue.
Trump is not somebody who believes in
I'll go back to
democracy, whether women are going to be able to continue to difficult times where there is a real question whether democracy is going to remain in the United States of America. You know, Donald Trump is not somebody who believes in democracy, whether women are going to be able to continue to control their own bodies, whether we have social justice in America, we end bigotry. Around that, I think.
So the Democratic Party building Cop City is not them cracking down on dissent and doing the same thing that you're criticizing Trump for doing. So when they crack down and they label protesters as domestic terrorists, that is a threat on democracy. That is an attack on free speech. They are intimidating and preventing people from fighting against and resisting their government in a very fascistic manner. And these are the people who Bernie is apologizing for.
I think we have got to bring the entire progressive community to defeat Trump or whoever the Republican nominee will be. Support Biden, but at the same time, which is what I did yesterday, is demand that the Democratic Party, not just Biden, have the guts to take on corporate greed and the massive levels of income and wealth inequality that we see today.
Sandra, what do you make of that exchange?
Well, it's about as good of an articulation of vote blue no matter who I've ever heard. I think it's a bit odd because Bernie, nobody asked him or AOC or any of these other people to step in so early and affirmatively endorse Biden.
So he calls out Bernie. This is interesting comment for Sire. He said it's interesting vote blue no matter who from Bernie. So he calls him out there. I'm interested to see if Sire calls Krystal out for essentially repeating vote blue no matter who read it. That's literally what she did, but I'll let it continue.
He never did any of that back in 2020. And now he's been effectively, he's been downgraded to some sort of campaign surrogate, openly attacking Cornel West and undermining many of the theories of which he himself ran on for a long time. So, I mean, I can't think of it anything as like, I mean, it's really an outright betrayal of like so much of his life's work and a lot of the people who follow his movement. I mean, not only in order to endorse Biden and not acknowledge any of the third-party candidates, any of the candidate challengers who are running against him, but then to openly dismiss and discourage the idea of third parties, which is directly Cornel West explicitly trying to run against Joe Biden and to force change and to try and get some of his ideas injected into the party of which, and even candidates of which.
I swear to God, I ripped Saiger so many times, but the only reason why people like Saiger is because they compare him to Krystal. Because she makes him look good by comparison. Like I did videos before roasting this guy because his pro-war China takes, his faux populism, for example, right? But Krystal is so bad. She consistently makes him seem the rational because he sees it's like Bernie obviously betrayed his movement here. The fuck. Anyway, let's continue.
Long was a defender of that is literally the definition of democracy. So Bernie's saying that he's endorsing Biden or whatever because of democracy, but also kind of openly trashing the idea of democracy itself by running against Biden. It doesn't make any sense.
So there's two pieces of this. One part I actually agree with and one part I really disagree with. And I think profoundly goes against everything that he previously stood for and argued for. So the part that I'll start with the part I agree on. I think he's basically correct about third parties. I think the only thing that Cornel West, Dr. West, who I love, admire, respect, whose politics I almost completely share, I think effectively.
There it is, fam. You're going to hear them say this every single time. Oh, no, I love Dr. Cornel West. I promise.
But
Cornel
listen,
West,
Nick, this thing they're trying to sell us of voting is not about voting who you are. The reason they're able in their own mind, there's two things. They have to describe voting as something disconnected from your beliefs because they're voting for Democrats and they claim their beliefs are different. You get what I mean? So I know my sound's going in now, but yeah, so they claim their beliefs are different. And two, the reason they don't have nothing, they don't need anything from the government. That's why they can disconnect their vote as to just saying it's not who you are. If you're a person who's working 2 jobs and you live in the projects and you got 2 kids and you're a single parent, when you go and take your time out of your busy schedule to go vote, you think you just gonna fucking, oh, I showed up here just to fucking vote for somebody I don't fucking care about.
That's so
Why
fucking
would you do that? It's so disconnected from the working class to describe voting this way. But this is the latest push that we've done streams on this. I remember one memorable one we did on Emma and Sam Cedar. We did over a year ago where they were talking. So we've been on this, and they've been on this talk of disconnecting who you're voting from who you are and what you believe in. Go ahead.
And that's why RBN blindsided them, CJ, because before us, they will be just saying this with no counter. They will be considered the radicals in the room, actually. Meanwhile, them and their fans, they'd be like, RBN, come on, stop covering them. RBN, come on, stop ripping them apart. We have to dismantle this bullshit because they are used to going completely unopposed. They are extremely critical of everyone who they disagree with. But then when we criticize them for their liberal bullshit that used to pass as radical, they're like, oh my God, why is RBN being divisive? Because this is garbage and must be called out as that. Yeah. Meanwhile, listen to this, Krystal, saying what everyone has to say before they throw cold water on Dr. Cornel West's campaign. Going to be very interesting seeing how they juggle trying to seem hip and cool while simping for Jim Crow Joe.
This is why they have to. This is why they have to have this caveat, Nick. I believe him. I love him. I love him because this is them essentially saying, I'm about to set aside all my beliefs here, guys. Let me set it aside and now tell you what's going to happen. This is how they're able to do it. I love him. All his beliefs, 99%. But now let me tell you why I'm not voting for the person who's 99% with me, but for a person who's 49% with me. This is the way that they're being able to describe it. It's such a this is so PMC. So it's such to be wimps, be cowards, and what you say, beta rant you went on. But go ahead with the video, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's continue. I hope my memory serves correct, because when I watched this, like, Krystal goes full shit lip here, even apologized for Biden on the economy. So let's continue.
About third parties.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that Cornel West, Dr. West, who I love, admire, respect, whose politics I almost wholly and completely share.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's the small disagreement bullshit. If you do not support third parties and someone is literally running to be third party president, I think that's a large gap. I think if that's such a giant disagreement in tactics, you can't say you're close in politics if you disagree with such a significant strategy. And CJ, this is what they do all the time. They say, hey, we agree on Medicare for all. We agree on abortion rights and all this other bullshit. And then they leave out strategy. RBN, we counteract them and we call their bullshit out and we flip it on the argument on its head. When they say that strategy is not that much regarding how much we agree, we say strategy is everything. You say you support Medicare for all, hell, you even say you support reparations, mean very little if your strategy means supporting the imperialist capitalist party where that's never going to happen.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, let me continue. Like, this gets so I'm gonna let it continue for a bit, CJ, because it's very hard to get to. I want to let's hear Krystal's argument, and we comment afterwards.
Only thing that his campaign will accomplish is, number one, helping to reelect Donald Trump, and number two, hurting the left. Because ultimately, there's just a poll that came out that showed Biden and Trump basically tied in a head-to-head. You throw Cornel West in, and Trump is winning by like 5 points. And the margin is just exactly the amount that Dr. West takes away from Joe Biden. Now, listen, it's fully on Joe Biden that he needs to do more to appeal to potential Cornel West voters. But let's live in the land of reality of how this is going to work out. They're not going to do that. Dr. West will take some percentage, relatively small percentage, away from the Democratic total, and it makes it easier for Donald Trump to get elected. So if your priority is reelecting a Democrat, and if you believe, as I do, that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not equivalent, that Joe Biden has been better in particular on economics, but also with things.
What does this mean for a person who supports Marianne Williamson? What are you saying? What are you admitting to?
What the fuck?
What are you admitting to? You're going to vote for a Democrat regardless if it's Marianne Williamson and after Marianne Williamson. So you're meant to tell me, Nick, the person and the people that Marianne Williamson married, those people who put their careers on the line to promote her candidacy, those people who are saying they're going to vote for a Democrat, her and Cal have been saying this the last couple of weeks. You don't think she's going to do that? You don't think that's why she's so
we told you guys
evasive about the question? Are you motherfucking gonna fucking promote this Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden or not? What are you gonna do? Oh, tell me. And when Donald Trump was asked this, no, just answer the fucking question, man. But go ahead, Nick.
If you guys think this shit is embarrassing, it's going to get worse. Wait till the election really starts, fam. Wait till Marianne Williamson drops out, and then she goes full Biden, bro. That Kyle Kalinske already kind of prematurely did. Yeah, and the reason why we dragged Marianne Williamson and her supporters is because we told you guys, fam. We told you guys, Marianne Williamson supporters are Biden voters that's taking an extra step. They're taking a pit stop along the way. That's exactly what we told you guys. Once again, RBN vindicated for the shit we said months ago. Come on, RBN, Marianne Williamson, their supporters are close to you guys. You guys are close allies. Why are you so mean to them? Because we told you guys they were Democrats and Biden voters with an extra step. Now listen to this nonsense that you hear from MSNBC and Morning Joe, because CJ, this is the part that you missed, where she says one of the reasons why she can't support a third party because she thinks Biden did good on the economy. I'm playing that part again just in case you guys missed it. Like this part, when I first heard it, is when I knew I was gonna join you live. Because this part made my jaw hit the fucking floor. Like I was a fucking cartoon character. My eyes was outside my skull. Like I was fucking Bugs Bunny when I heard this shit.
Nick was like laying down. She said this shit. She was like, "Oh, I'm joining CJ. Yeah, he was laying down. Oh, I'm joining CJ. Let me get up."
Nigga, I was already seething. Nigga, I was already triggered as fuck. Seething. And then she got to this part, and I turned to a cartoon character at that point because I want you guys to understand. I can look at the exact numbers, but I'm pretty confident in this. Biden's disapproval on the economy is somewhere between 65 to 70%. It's like only 30% of the American people support Biden on the economy, which is a horrible number because 30% is the support that anyone will get on any issue. These are the 30% unmovable partisans, right? So Krystal Ball, showing how out of touch she is part of that 30% unmovable liberal Democrat coalition who believe that Biden is good on the economy. Listen to this shit because everything she says, I think this is the most significant part. I think this is around the time I rage quit, to be honest. Everything else after this, I'm going blind because after this part, I was like, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, let's continue.
Percentage away from the Democratic total, and it makes it easier for Donald Trump to get elected. So if your priority is reelecting a Democrat, and if you believe, as I do, that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not equivalent, that Joe Biden has been better in particular on economics, but also with things like the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Particularly on economics.
Even the Afghanistan too, because in order for you to be able to say the withdrawal from Afghanistan is good, is to leave out and omit him starving Afghanistan. That's the only way for that argument to work. Because if you say the full sentence, that no longer can be used as something good he did.
He starved millions of Afghanistan people. You guys know the concept of lying by omission, right? Like when people give Biden credit for pulling out Afghanistan, that is a pants on fire 5 Pinocchios lie by omission. We cover on the show all the time that I do not differentiate sanctions, Cold War from hot war. There's a legitimate argument to be made. Like Aaron Mate put back on me. We had a conversation before where hot war is very destructive. But when you look at studies in the last few decades, millions and millions of people, more people died because of Afghanistan sanctions and the United States seizing their funds than died in the Afghanistan war. Like you had a quarter of a million Iraqi kids that was starved by U.S. sanctions, fam. Like we cannot differentiate the economic war and hot war. That's my position, right? So Biden seized funds from the Afghanistan government because they didn't want to legitimize the Taliban, who the United States lost a 20-year war to. So once again, another L for the military. For the people who think the United States military is so great, what war have we won in the modern era? Don't worry, I'll wait. Don't worry, I'll wait. Haven't won one fucking war. We lost to the Taliban. So Biden, throwing a fucking tantrum, decided to seize billions of their dollars. And they said they're doing it because they don't want to legitimize the Taliban government. And a bunch of shit libs just took it for face value. You want to know who was hurt by that? People who have money in Afghanistan banks, business owners, people who have savings, motherfuckers. United States stole their money. And there was women who were so malnourished because of this, they couldn't breastfeed. That led to a death of over 15,000 infants in Afghanistan. But Krystal is praising Biden over the Afghanistan policy, CJ. That's a lot. That's a pants on fire, 5 Pinocchios, scumbag lie by Krystal Ball. Anyway, I'll let it continue.
And that's just one of them. No, you haven't even gotten to the the other thing she said. I threw you off track. You was just about to talk about the other thing she lies about, and then I threw you off track because the other thing she lies about. Oh, well, play it again so we can.
First she lies about the economy.
That's the other thing.
She's part of the Democratic coalition that believe Biden's big good on the economy.
Nick, you have so many receipts on that. I think you even did a video on Biden's economy. Like, Biden so many receipts on this and she's trying to push this.
So I wanna pose a simple question to Bernie sellouts like Krystal Ball, who cover labor issues. So we have multiple labor strikes. Many workers report on being upset and feel like they're being underpaid and undervalued. How do you square the fact that workers are upset and striking with the idea that we are in a good economy? You guys see how their metrics are completely different than ours? I am a socialist. They are not. They like, man, look at the GDP growth. Look how much the 1% stock portfolio's grown. The economy is doing great. Meanwhile, we're like, nigga, workers are fucking furious. You got people that are forced to work 2 jobs to feed themselves. You got a record amount of food insecurity. The metrics that you guys and you capitalists use are delusional. You guys are like, people are not starving to death, so they out of poverty. Yeah, he working 2 jobs. Isn't that great? Yeah, he very can feed his kids, very can feed themselves. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
The metrics that you guys use is garbage. But anyway, I need to shut the fuck up. I'll let it play. I want you guys to hear this shit lib argument that Krystal made that is unbelievable here.
Electing a Democrat.
And to be clear, Bernie Sanders is making the same argument. For the few people who watch Bernie's live stream, because most people don't, because people see through his garbage, Bernie did a live stream talking about how, and I got the receipts, I got the screenshots and posted on Twitter, but Bernie like, Biden and his allies like us, we have every right to be proud about what we accomplished. That's a direct quote from Bernie Sanders. I'll let it continue.
And that's the critique. That's the thing that they're both saying, the critique that triggered Cornel West. Now, do you think this is the reason she has this critique of Cornel West? Because if she's saying the same thing that Bernie is saying, but it's the same, but it's the critique. If Bernie is saying that the economy is great, Cornel West has a critique. You want to use the same argument in order to push voting for a Democrats. So you're going to have a critique of Cornel West.
So I want to show you guys the receipt because I want you guys to see where Krystal Ball is getting her talking point from. There's a fucking memo somewhere, fam. because the switch on a dime is jarring to see this.
Yes.
But look, this is from Bernie Sanders' live stream yesterday. Like I posted this at 11 a.m., so I'm thinking maybe it was sometime yesterday or sometime around the time. Look, President Biden and President Biden and those of us who worked with him have every right to be proud of what we have accomplished. This is the message coming from Bernie Sanders. And then he continues, if you got for context, he says, especially, I didn't screenshot this part, but he says, especially in light of Republican obstructionism and the fact that we don't control Congress. So he's getting Biden a pass. He's like, your pain is not Biden's fault. It's because we don't have control of Congress. That's literally what he says when he says especially from there, just so you guys know. But anyway, let's get back to the video. This is Krystal following this direction from Bernie Sanders, and it's going to get even more cringe and embarrassing as the rest of the Bernie industrial complex follows suit. And we're going to be here to light their ass on fire when they do.
You believe, as I do, that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not equivalent, that Joe Biden has been better in particular on economics, but also with things like the withdrawal from Afghanistan, then yeah, I think a third-party effort makes it more likely that Donald Trump gets reelected. And the reason why I say I think it will ultimately also hurt the left wing and left principles, if that's what you care about, is we have the model of 2016. Look, the theory in 2016 with Jill Stein was if we withhold our votes from the Democrats, and that's going to force them to the table, we're going to have a voice in the room, they're going to have to come to our side. No, that's not what they did. Instead, they demonized anyone who would have even considered Jill Stein. They used it to demonize the left. They used it to undercut.
Who is they?
Yeah.
Once again, Krystal Ball don't want the funk. This is what I said earlier. I keep it short because I already said this. But Krystal Ball don't want the funk. We want this battle, fam. We want you guys to try to demonize us.
Is that what she means by hurting?
Huh?
That's what she means by hurting. She means she's describing, Nick, relational harm. Nick?
Yes.
She's describing relational harm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said it earlier before, but we're not being demonized by anyone who's building community with us. Look at who Krystal Ball is building with. She's scared of being demonized by shit libs who are fighting against a working class third party movement. Why would you even care? I want that fucking fight.
Yeah,
Dr. Cornel West wants that fight. We want that funk. Krystal Ball don't want that funk. She don't want that fight. She's a fucking coward. And she like, I would support a third party if it spawned out of nowhere and got support for 25%. Like, where do you think that happened? How do you think how it happened? She's like, I'll be a bandwagon supporter. If you guys are about to win, then I'll join you guys. What kind of fucking cowardly shit is this?
That's weak.
Anyway, let continue. Like, there's so much stuff to say about this. There's so much, man. Like, they put this shit on their channel and wasn't embarrassed. And I'm so glad that her audience sees through this. Anyway, let's continue.
Any sort of leftward push. And so while I would love to imagine that theory of the case would work out, we've seen the reality, and that is not what happens. Now, the place where I profoundly disagree with Bernie Sanders is on his orientation towards the Democratic primary. And
what does that do?
Primaries. So
what does that do? Go ahead. Then I'll comment.
CJ, make your point. Make your point. I want to hear your point.
Well, I was just gonna say, what does it do to have a problem with the primary, Krystal? If you've already said your ultimate goal is electing a Democrat, what is the point in having? What is the point in doing that? Why are you having a problem with the primary that you've already said in multiple videos that's rigged? Do you see how it's like they know it's an inevitable march to vote for Joe Biden, and they want all of us to go through this roller coaster ride of pretending as if Marianne Williamson has a chance in the primary. Why do you want us to go through the charade of the primary? For what? To get us, she wants us to stay connected. The primary is how the left stays connected. Go ahead. And then she makes
money dragging us through the storyline. The storyline that we already seen coming. We told you guys Marianne Williamson supporters are Democrats with extra steps. And we see it right now because her criticism of Bernie, as she says here, is not that Bernie is throwing cold water on the third party. She said she has criticism because Bernie not supporting Marianne Williamson. That's what she said. She said, I don't. One thing I disagree with. I agree with him when it comes to fuck Dr. Cornel West, fuck third parties. I agree with that part. But what I disagree with is the fact that he won't support my girl Marianne Williamson in the primaries. That is literally what she is saying here. For the same end of just supporting Democrats. I want you guys to hear that part, and I'll let it play a bit.
Any sort of leftward push. And so while I would love to imagine that theory of the case would work out, we've seen the reality, and that is not what happens. Now, the place where I profoundly disagree with Bernie Sanders is on his orientation towards the Democratic primary.
That's the part you disagree
And there's
with.
another section of this where he gets asked specifically about the Democratic primary. And he says, no, I think we need to unify behind Joe Biden because that will be what helps to defeat Donald Trump.
That is literally what you say,
That's
but
what
with
you
the
just
extra
said.
step, Krystal. Literally Bernie Sanders' position is the same as yours. You just want an extra step in between.
Well, that's exactly the argument that was used against Bernie Sanders himself.
Yes.
Both in 2016 and again in 2020. Stop criticizing the Democrats. Stop criticizing the Democratic establishment. Stop running all together because you're sowing dissent and your, attempts at democracy here are really undermining our attempt to defeat Donald Trump. It was bullshit then and it's bullshit now. And the fact that he jumped in.
You were using the same argument against Dr. Cornel West.
I don't understand how
you
she
literally
doesn't see
just
that.
said that you think Biden has done good on the economy and pulling out Afghanistan. You just said that as a way to throw cold water on Dr. Cornel West. So the same thing you criticize liberals to doing to Bernie is exactly what you're doing in third parties. Dimwit.
To endorse Joe Biden, a man that he knows is not living up to the, social democratic ideals that Bernie Sanders supports, is not living up to the bare minimum of really helping the working class or even meeting the promises that he himself made on the campaign trail. Something that I know that Bernie Sanders is aware of because he just gave this big speech in New Hampshire with this direct critique of the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. But still, you jump and endorse him while there's a competitive primary going on.
You just did that.
Listen, I understand. I'm not.
There's a competitive primary. Where is there a competitive primary? Where's there a competitive primary? You see how she slipped in that word? Why are you endorsing when there's a competitive primary? What competitive primary? You talking about the GOP one?
I'm glad he caught that because I actually missed that. Motherfucker, Marianne Williamson is in the same boat as Chris Christie, fam. Do you guys think Chris Christie stands a chance? Because that's where Marianne Williamson's at. RFK, who was doing well, dropped in the polls recently. So RFK's strategy of going on right-wing media and kissing their ass is not really working. You guys know how Democrats been going after RFK, whether it's been fair or not. RFK favorability in the Democratic Party plummeted because of that. So who's voting the Democratic Party primary? Steven Crowder and his audience?
Yeah.
These people is a Fox News audience voting for the Democratic Party primary? Because that's RFK's strategy, which I have no problem against. But it's kind of weird when you avoid left-wing shows and you do nothing but softball right-wing interviews while dodging Max Blumenthal. We're still waiting for that interview, by the way. So because of this stuff, he dropped in the primary polls. So you guys are not competitive. You guys are not, and there's no debates. No debates at all. Anyway, let's continue. You guys see how absurd this is. They really just go on their show and just embarrass themselves.
But still, you jump and endorse him while there's a competitive primary going on? Listen, I understand. I'm not a fool. The realities of DC. Okay, for him to endorse the candidate, Marianne Williamson, who most closely matches his own ideology, I get the way that would make it impossible for him to, have any sort of influence with the White House, et cetera, et cetera. But you didn't have to do anything. You could have just stayed out. And if you really believe your rhetoric about what needs to be done to defeat Donald Trump, then actually you would endorse and fight for Marianne Williamson because she is the one who's carrying the mantle.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Oh my God, you're so fucking thirsty and desperate. Holy shit, listen to that. Wow, I told you I rage quit around the time when you said the economy part, so I'm like blind.
If you can play that again, play that part again.
Listen to that part. Jesus Christ.
Rhetoric? about what needs to be done to defeat Donald Trump, then actually you would endorse and fight for Marianne Williamson, because she is the person who is carrying the mantle of his political project. Let me put this next piece up on the screen. I've referred to this.
Wait, can you go back again? Because she says something I just noticed. Her logic. I'm trying to see it. Yeah, let me see if I'm hearing this clearly, because now I'm picking up some inconsistent logic here.
All right,
but you didn't have to do anything. You could have just stayed out. And if you really believe your rhetoric about what needs to be done to defeat Donald Trump, then actually you would endorse and fight for Marianne Williamson, because she is the person who is carrying the mantle of his political project. Let me put this next piece up on the screen. I've referred to this New Hampshire speech a couple of times.
So, because she is conflating things, she's claiming Marianne Williamson is carrying Bernie Sanders' political project, but that is not the threshold you just said in the beginning of the sentence, which was, if what you're saying, Bernie, is right, and we must do these things to keep Trump out of office, are you saying if we do the things that Bernie or Marianne Williamson want is what will keep Trump out of office? Like this, I'm trying to get her logical stretch.
I don't even understand the pitch, Jay.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's not. It doesn't. It's falling apart. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm trying to see what her logic is, and it doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
Let me explain what I mean. She's essentially admitting that she's a Democrat with extra steps. So we already explained 1,000 times how Marianne Williamson is no fucking Bernie Sanders, and anyone who says that is absolutely ridiculous. She don't even have the Bernie movement behind her, fam.
I know.
No grassroots support. It is nowhere near the same campaign as Bernie Sanders. But even if you accept her framing, her pitch makes no sense if you're anti-establishment, because she says Marianne Williamson is picking up the Bernie mantle. What did Bernie Sanders do, fam? Bernie Sanders lost 2 times. Marianne Williamson is following a losing game plan, doing a loser strategy. We should support her. How does that make sense? So even if you admit that she's a new Bernie Sanders, that's something that we still shouldn't support. Supporting a loser who polling at best, a good poll shows her at best 8 to 10%.
I think 10
Why should
was
we
the
even
latest.
go for this garbage again? For what? People would have 6-figure jobs within the Bernie media industrial complex. And once you guys understand, that is what we accomplished. People like Krystal, Kyle Kulinski, David Dole, all these people are thriving because of the Bernie movement. That is what we accomplished. That is what we're going to accomplish, even in the best case scenario for Marianne Williamson, where she drops out after New Hampshire instead of immediately after South Carolina. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue the video.
Times. So Bernie Sanders, traveled to, this is the third element. Bernie Sanders traveled to New Hampshire, and he says, I gave a major speech about why Democrats must ignore the corporate wing of the party and instead put forward a concrete agenda that speaks.
Ignore them, but endorse them?
To the needs of struggling working Americans. And in the very same speech where he's saying we got to reject the corporate Democrats and we've got to do better and we got to lay on this working class vision, et cetera, he's also repeatedly saying we got to back Joe Biden. I back Joe Biden. I back Joe Biden. I back Joe Biden.
You just said you like what Joe Biden is doing.
It's just wildly inconsistent. It's nonsensical. And it does go against
you are inconsistent and nonsensical. Your exact verbatim argument that you're trying to use against Bernie Sanders is the same argument against you trying to advocate against Cornel West. Like how she's doing it in the same video, Nick. I can understand I know if it's 2 different videos in the same video.
She is so dumb. She don't realize she's criticizing Bernie what she did literally minutes ago. What? Remember, she said she disagreed. This is the part where she disagreed with Bernie on. Earlier in the clip, we showed you how she's like, I actually disagreed and it hurt the left because Biden actually did good on Afghanistan withdrawal and economics. And that's the argument that Kyle Kulinski makes. He like, when you look at it, Biden actually did a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff I'll be happy about. That, that's what Kyle says. So what you're saying as criticism of Bernie applies to you, Marianne Williamson supporters. Why are you guys running against Biden if you're afraid to call him corrupt? Do you guys remember the Marianne Williamson Jordan interview we talked about, we reacted to a long time ago, where Jordan was sitting there in horror as Marianne Williamson was pushing back on his claims that Biden is corrupt? It makes no sense. You guys are being weak on purpose because you guys are Democrats. So it's unbelievable you turn this on Bernie Sanders because she's not
can't believe it.
falling in line
It's so
behind your
weak.
good friend who was at your wedding. Zero integrity shown here. Jaw-shockingly low integrity. But people will call us grifters. It's unbelievable. The PMC class believe that RBN don't believe what we say and we grifters, even though we're out here in the streets. We got a record of consistency. Meanwhile, these people are saying nonsense and contradicting themselves in a few minutes, but they are considered credible. Krystal Ball is considered credible, and we just thugs. We call it dropout thugs, not worth taking seriously. But she's a deeply unserious moron, as you see here.
About the importance of democracy and the importance of backing candidates who are going to support an actual, genuine, material, working class agenda. So that's the piece that makes no sense to me and that I really object to.
Well, I mean, you should. I mean, this is the man who said he was going to challenge Obama, or at least thought about challenging Obama for the primary in 2012. He used to really believe in shaking up the system. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where
primaries
I
does
just
not
don't really
shake up the
understand
system.
his orientation around.
So can we dismantle this myth? So do you guys know what was the result of the Bernie Sanders project? Because people still running on vibes, running on stuff that make them feel good, CJ. So they say stuff like this. Well, the Bernie Sanders movement was worth it because at least we got the message out there and we shift the rhetoric of the country to the left based on what? Are we closer to Medicare for all? Last time I checked, the Democratic Party is sending billions of dollars of weapons to Nazis in Ukraine. They're taking COVID relief funds and giving it to the police. Last time I checked, Joe Biden is funding ICE to record levels. So in what universe did the Democratic Party shift to the left? Ever since the start of the Bernie Project, the Democratic Party, I would say shift to the right, but I would say double down from the right-wing position.
Yeah, because they wasn't shift. They were already there.
I think that's more accurate to say. So he doubled down on and essentially carried out the Hillary Clinton foreign policy. So I think that's the most accurate way to say it. Because it's not saying that they just had Obama and then they had Bill Clinton. So anyway, I'll let it continue. It's over there. I made a lot of my arguments here. We see if they trigger me more, but I'll let it play. TJ, feel free to interrupt, but I think I made a lot of my arguments.
All this. And as you said too, you can separate two different things, like a third party bid and then also an active primary challenge, of which he has refused to get involved in. Or at the very least, he could stay silent. He could ask Biden, he could be like, well, if you want me to endorse you, I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. But he has actually not done literally any of that.
Right.
So that I think is his biggest problem that he has going on. And that's the thing too. Look, with Cornel West, like nobody can get into his mind or into his head about exactly what he's doing, what he's trying, and what he wants to do. I mean, and the other thing is you could take it at his word. And
he just explained on our show. No one knows what Dr. Cornel West is doing. Come on, we're doing. Come on, man. He just said we're trying to build a movement. The only people who are serious about building a movement are people who build outside the two-party duopoly. Whether I agree with them or not, especially in this case, where Dr. Cornel West on our show literally says he views himself as just a vehicle to drag people out of the two-party duopoly. He's a vehicle in the movement. You guys see how they can't even comprehend proletariat politics? Can't even comprehend revolutionary movement politics. I don't know what Dr. Cornel West thinks. Who fucking knows? Listen this shit again. I told you guys I wouldn't stop it again, but
before you hit play, because I was going to ask you to rewind it too. It almost feels like, to me, because I've seen a lot of segments of Sagar, not recently. Maybe he's been this way recently, but compared to some of his the heel, like when he's advocating something, this feels very. This is what I gotta say because Krystal Ball, who's really running this shit, because. Don't get this twisted. This breaking point shit, this is not really a partnership. Krystal Ball is 1A, sir. She's 1A, okay? And you can see in the team that she has assembled. He got one guy on his team, the black sellout coon, that's on the team that's
That's a good
also
point.
pushing China propaganda. She has everybody else. Literally, Nick, everybody else on the team are the people that she
The Ryan Graham.
that she got on to the show. And so to that point, he knows where his bread is buttered. He knows that. So he speaks about certain candidates in a certain way to jar with what she's saying, because he could come out here and go, what are you talking about? What's the problem with Donald Trump getting elected? I'm a conservative. What do you mean? What's the problem with Donald Trump getting elected? I would love for Cornel West to stay in. Yeah, stay in. Do the same thing that happened. Like, you can go with the same narrative she's going with. Do the same thing that they did to Al Gore. Do the same thing that they did to Hillary Clinton. That's perfect for us. Why is he talking in the way as to co-sign to what she's
calling
saying?
her.
He's on the opposite side. Go ahead.
He's calling her. Like, you gotta see, we can barely go last 20 seconds listen to her speak, because everything she says is a logical fallacy in one way or another. So even to your point, he doesn't even have to go full Trump, because I don't know what Cyrus' position on Trump is.
Yeah, true.
He can even just take one of her stupid ass arguments that we explained and like, hey, yo, Krystal, can you explain this part that makes no sense here? Like, isn't your criticism, Bernie, regarding Marianne the same as what you say? Like, he doesn't even try to push back. And I noticed this every single time we do a video on Krystal. Like, I remember the last time I think we did one was when she had that horrific RFK interview. No, at no point in the cycle, like he's not allowed to really challenge her. To your point, so I think that's a good point. I'll let it continue. We almost done.
That I think is his biggest problem that he has going on. You know, and that's the thing too. Look, with Cornel West, like, nobody can get into his mind or into his head about exactly what he's doing, what he's trying, and what he wants to do. I mean, and the other thing is, you could take it at his word and he just believes that it's not going to work. And I think, you know, we have to come back to this. Like, you can't quash his ability to run. Like, you can't declare war against it. You, at the end of the day, like, you have to work within the system. The Green Party has ballot access, and in that, like, you got to fight for the votes and actually get them. And there's a way in order to get that done. And if, Bernie believes so passionately, then he would have to make a much better case to many of the people who would and are considering Cornel West for president, in order to say, here's why, if you share our politics, like going back in the day, you would have to go and do this. And that's why, we can actually have a vision of change in order to really affect and get things done on this side. But he's not doing that, in any of these pitches or in the New Hampshire speech.
Yeah. And listen, guys, just to be clear about third parties, like, I would love to, live in a world where Cornel West running as a third party candidate had a real shot at the White House. But simply because of the structure of our political system as it exists today, it's not going to happen. And
look at this weak beta cuck shit right here. Remember, guys, this is the common theme I'm hitting on recently. You guys notice this shit from Tom Hartman, Bernie Sanders, now Krystal and Kyle on the list as well. I mean, I would love it if we have a third party. I would love to fight the system. But the system it's really hard to change, guys. It will be a lot of fighting, a lot of work. This is a weak shit that they were trying to spread. This is a weak beta culture that they were trying to spread on the left. This level of defeatism, because they will call us the nihilists. This millionaire white woman will call us a nihilist, even though she said, man, I would love if we had a third party, but the system got a boot on our neck. We can't do anything about the system. You can see how quick she is to yield to the system. What kind of anti-establishment fighter are you? You are yielding to a garbage system. Meanwhile, RBN, we talking about forming our own government, building mutual aid societies. You guys know what I'm talking about? We're actually resisting neoliberalism. These social democrats, they believe in capitalist realism, which is a doomerist, nihilist concept that we will never get rid of capitalism. Neoliberalism is here to stay. We might as well submit. They are weak, fam. And I lost my patience with these people spreading weakness in this beta defeatism among the left. We need revolutionary optimism, not this weak ass shit here. Now let's listen to this garbage that she's trying to cultivate a weak, feckless, spineless left. Meanwhile, let's listen to this.
Now,
shit.
West, running as a third-party candidate, had a real shot at the White House. But simply because of the structure of our political system as it exists today, it's not going to happen. And so, you know, that's the reality that I'm sort of grappling with here. And we have an example from 2016 of how this all works out. Now, I think the narrative about, oh, Jill Stein cost the Democrats the election 20, I think that's total bullshit. Like, the numbers just literally don't add up. That's not what
you just said, fam.
You just said this earlier.
Your mind is so broken. U.S. propaganda, DNC propaganda shattered your brain so bad, you don't even realize you just contradicted yourself based on what you said earlier.
I can't believe
They're
this.
mindless propaganda puppets, fam. They can't even critically think. She don't even realize she just made this argument. There's a possibility, and it'll hurt the left if Dr. Cornel West actually helped Trump win. She just said that. If you don't believe me, rewind.
She said, and we have examples. Remember 2016 Jill Stein? She said this as an example. The Jill Stein campaign is an example us being hurt. And now she's saying, and then she said, furthermore, I think she used the Jill Stein as an example of electing Trump.
Yes.
Because there was two arguments against it. It was electing Trump and then the other one. So I think she used the Jill Stein as far as electing Trump. But now, 7 minutes later in the video, she's saying, and the argument against Jill Stein, I just can't.
It's unbelievable. Like, it's actually frustrating. Because I told you guys, I rage quit around the 5-minute mark. Like, I'm completely blind at this point. She just straight up contradicted herself multiple times. There's extreme internal conflict going on right now. We showed you guys in the beginning during our intro of Krystal before when she was trying to do this radical fuck the Democratic Party shtick. And this is when she was on Rogan and she used to talk about fuck the Democratic Party. We showed you guys that earlier in the stream at the very beginning. So as I explained earlier, she knows the argument against the DNC logic that she's perpetuating right now. So she went back to being a sweet summer child. She went from being seeing through propaganda. So you can see that she has this internal conflict where one thing, literally 1 minute she will say one thing, and the next minute she will contradict herself because she knows she's sold out. And I'm not a psychologist. I would love to see someone analyze what the fuck this is. Like, I would be embarrassed if you guys show me a video where I literally contradict myself like this. Like, I'm literally shocked. I didn't see this part of the video. I am shocked at what she did. If you guys just joined the stream, either watch this video or rewind it. It's around the 4 or 5 minute mark where she's saying the exact opposite of what she's talking about now. It's unbelievable how little she thinks of her audience. I'm afraid of fucking up on here. I know you guys will roast me. That's why I try to do a good job. She thinks so little of her audience, which is why she's getting roasted for this. Thank God.
Running as a third-party candidate had a real shot at the White House. But simply because of the structure of our political system as it exists today, it's not going to happen. And so, you know, that's the reality that I'm sort of grappling with here. And we have an example from 2016 of how this all works out. Now, I think the narrative about, oh, Jill Stein cost the Democrats the election 20, I think that's total bullshit. Like, the numbers just literally don't add up. That's not what happened. Hillary Clinton was a disastrous candidate. It's 100% on her. So let me be really clear about that. But let's also be clear about the fact that they definitely blamed Jill Stein and they definitely blamed her supporters. And it did not have the impact that people wanted it to have of then forcing the Democratic Party to come to the table and actually appeal to these voters. That is not their response. That's never going to be their response. So let's not pretend that it really is. So that's the third party.
She is such a fucking moron, fam. So you realize the Democratic Party shifted to the right, not because of Jill Stein 1% Green Party support. They shifted to the right because the Bernie coalition folded. You moron. She blames us. CJ, fam, she blames people who vote for third party for Jim Crow Joe being a pro-war maniac. It's the exact opposite. You gaslighting scumbag. It's the exact opposite. So when the Bernie coalition decided to endorse Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe despite having no concessions, that enabled the Democratic Party to shift to the right because they know they will forever have progressive support.
Right.
Joe Biden have no reason to support Medicare for all or any progressive policies when Bernie Sanders endorses Joe Biden a year and a half before the election. And it's crazy, fam. It is actually bonkers that she blames third-party activists for this. So my thesis, and the reason why I changed my politics, is because the Bernie movement enabled a shift to the party, the Democratic Party, to shift to the right. She's making the exact opposite argument. Unbelievable shit here. Mind-blowing shit. Generational, once-in-a-lifetime shit we're watching here. Once-in-a-lifetime dumb analysis here. Out of all the reaction videos, this is one that probably broke my brain the most. Like, the amount of contradiction, false logic. Like, this is probably one of the most insane videos I've seen. Unhinged, completely DNC, mind-broken, complete surrender on behalf of Krystal Ball. This is unbelievable shit. Generational. I am speechless the same way I would be speechless if I watched the world heavyweight title fight. like
at least Jank got 20 mil, and it took him like 5 years to do his complete shift.
Yeah.
Like she's making a shift on possibly we can become the mainstream media of YouTube. And without any of the money, she's just doing it just to do it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let the video finish because we're almost done.
Terrible.
Then I read super chats, and I had to dip. I don't know what your plans are, but I dip after this segment.
For sure.
So I'll play the end of the video here.
Piece, but listen, on the Democratic primary piece, I just think I do find it sad. I still really respect and admire Bernie Sanders. I think he's done a lot for this country. He still is one of the most beloved figures in the entire country because of his willingness to speak on a number of issues about the media class, the political class, and the way that working class people have been screwed. But on this particular, like how he's jumped in to endorse Joe Biden, it goes against everything that he said in 2016, everything he said in 2020, everything he said about his theory of political change, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what galls me. I'm like, it's changed. If this is the difference in everything your entire life, and it's like, and this is your last act.
Bought into the argument they were making against you.
Almost
You did too. I think we can end it there because they about done. But Jesus Christ, that's an unbelievable video.